The laboratory of Mechanobiology is a biological containment laboratory of Class II biohazard. Activity in this laboratory involves both biological hazard and chemical hazard. Access to the laboratory must be granted by the responsible safety officer on the basis of attendance to specific biological and chemical security classes. Learn the name of the safety officer on duty and create a new contact safety officer with his own name telephone number on your cellular phone before entering the laboratory. Always keep your cellular phone in your pocket in the laboratory. Use of the cellular phone is authorized only in case of emergency. Before starting any activity, it is mandatory that you tie your hair up. Wear a laboratory coat. Wear disposable gloves. Gloves must cover the lab coat cuff. Finally, wear eye shields if you don't already wear glasses. There are two emergency exits. The first one is the main entrance of the laboratory. The second one is at half the laboratory length on its side. In case of any emergency that you can handle without putting your safety at risk, such as power failure, malfunctioning of an equipment, or injury of a colleague, immediately call the safety officer for assistance. In case of any emergency that you cannot handle without putting your safety at risk, such as a fire, spilling of dangerous agents, intoxication of a colleague, leave the laboratory as soon as possible through the safety exit nearest to you. Close the laboratory door after leaving, reach a safety distance, and call the safety officer for assistance. Never put your safety at risk to assist others you're not trained to do so. In case of any emergency, you must call the safety officer. In the laboratory, it's strictly forbidden to smoke, light flames, drink, eat, store alimentary products in the refrigerators, freezers, and any other place. It's forbidden to wear personal garments which do not cover the body entirely. Never touch your eyes and mouth with your hands. Label any sample with name and surname, date, content. Before storing it in the refrigerator, freezer, or any other place, manipulate biological materials only inside the biological cabinet. Use solvents or toxic materials only inside the chemical cabinet. Never block the access to doors, windows, and emergency exit with equipment or personal belongings. Never throw waste in the paper bin or in the sink. Never take waste out from the laboratory. In the laboratory, you must follow the specific procedures for waste disposal. Biological liquid waste must be disposed in the biohazard liquid waste container. Solid waste must be disposed in the biohazard waste container. Sharp objects such as needles or scalpels must be disposed in the relevant container. Chemical liquid wastes must be disposed in the chemical hazard waste containers. The biological safety cabinet allows cell manipulation under sterile conditions and protects the operator from biohazards. To sterilize the working field, cover the cabinet glass and switch on the UV light for 20 minutes. Never look at the UV light to avoid damage to your eyes. Switch off the UV light. Switch on the light. Switch on the fan. And remove the frontal panel. Never insert your hands in cabinet without gloves. Disinfect your hands thoroughly with 70% ethanol. Never walk near the cabinet aspirator where the airflow is not sterile. Never fill the working field. This interferes with the flow of sterile air, which has to be kept laminar. Keep the working field ordered and accessible. Always refer to the user manual. Insert the pipette carefully in order to avoid breakage and arm to hands. Regulate the aspiration rate using the handle. Press the upper button to aspire liquids and the lower button to eject liquids. Do not fill the pipette beyond the security level. Maintain a vertical orientation of the pipette during operation to avoid liquid penetration and damage to the instrument. Lay down the pipette controller in a horizontal position to maintain pipette sterility if needed. The micropipette is a very delicate and sophisticated instrument to be used for handling very low and controlled volumes of fluids down to 1 microliter. Push the button and carefully regulate the aspiration volume. Insert the sterile tip carefully in order to avoid damage to the instrument and in order to avoid contamination of the other tips. Press lightly the upper button to aspire and eject liquids. Push firmly to empty the tip. Push the lever to eject the tip. Do not plunge the tip beyond the security level. Maintain a vertical orientation of the pipette during operation to avoid liquid penetration and damage to the instrument. The cell culture incubator maintains ambient conditions of living cells at physiological ranges. Before switching on the incubator, check the pressure of the incubator gas lines, which should be 1 bar for nitrogen and carbon dioxide wall manometers, and 0.4 bar for both gases incubator manometers. Check that the internal water bowl is filled with clean distilled water. On the digital control panel, set the temperature to 37 degrees and the carbon dioxide pressure to 5% and the oxygen percentage to the desired level. Before inserting cell cultures, allow a minimum 12 hours period of operation to stabilize the ambient conditions. To end operations, switch the incubator off, close all the 4 manometers, close the gas tanks external to the laboratory. Always refer to the user manual. The centrifuge allows to separate fluids of different density such as cells from suspension. Switch on the centrifuge. Check the integrity of the test tube and close them carefully before insertion in the centrifuge. Insert water-filled tubes symmetric to all sample to balance weights. Set the centrifugation parameters on the digital control panel. Use the left handle to select parameters and the right handle to modify their value. Press the Start button. The centrifuge can be opened only after the green and orange LEDs turn on. Always refer to the user manual. The autoclave allows to sterilize materials at 130 degrees, including glass, stainless steel, PTFE, PDMS, using pressurized water vapor. Check if the material to be sterilized can bear autoclave processing. Switch on the autoclave. Check the control panel. If any of the alarms minimum, maximum, and max used is on, don't use the autoclave. Call the safety officer who will restore the correct operative condition. Insert the materials in the sterilizing envelope and seal it. Insert the envelopes. And lock the autoclave. Select the correct sterilization cycle and press Start. When the cycle ends, an acoustic alarm turns on and the digital display reports End Cycle. Check the sterilization cycle data on the paper report. Open the autoclave using heat protection gloves and extract the envelopes, leaving the door open. Check the sterilization color bar on each envelope. Never touch autoclaved materials without heat gloves. Always refer to the user manual. Always wear heat protection gloves when inserting or extracting materials from the heater. Switch on the oven using the power button. Regulate the temperature using the handle. Remember to switch off the oven at the end of use. The ultra freezer allows to store materials at -80 degrees. Never insert unlabeled materials and always wear Creo gloves. Label any sample with operator name, description of the biological origin of the material stored, indications on potential biohazard and chemical hazard, and insertion date. Incorrectly labeled materials are periodically disposed as waste by safety officer. Ultra-low temperatures harmful in case of direct contact with body parts. Wear clear gloves before opening the freezer's door, both when inserting and when collecting materials from the ultra-low freezer. Always refer to the user manual. The dewar is used to store cell in liquid nitrogen at temperature between -210 and -196 degrees. Operation of the dewar is allowed all in presence of the safety officer. Label any cryovial with cell type, date, cell number and operator name. Fill the paper foam with the same information before storing the vials. Incorrectly labeled vials are periodically disposed as waste by the safety officer. Liquid nitrogen temperature is highly harmful in case of direct contact with body parts. Wear face shield and cryo gloves before operating the dewar. The laboratory microscope for cell analysis is an optical inverted microscope. Switch on the microscope to perform bright field and phase contrast microscopy by a halogen light source. Switch on the fluorescence mercury vapor light source burner to perform fluorescence microscopy. Allow a few hours of operation before switching off the fluorescence light source. The sample is moved by operation of the mobile table. The sample is focused by operation of the focus handle. Image acquisition is performed by a high-resolution color video camera in relevant software. Always refer to the user manuals. The spectrophotometer is also called plate reader. It allows to perform quantitative colorimetric assays on cells cultured in a multi-well plates. Operation of the spectrophotometer is allowed only in the presence of the safety officer. This instrument cannot be moved without a specific procedure. Always refer to the user manual. The procedure to exit the laboratory is the following. Empty the biological safety cabinet and put in order all the materials. Connect the pipette controllers to the charger. Clean the biological safety cabinet with a disinfectant. Do not use corrosive detergents such as bleach. Close the front panel. And shut down the light and fan. Empty the chemical safety cabinet and put in order all the materials. Clean the chemical safety cabinet with a disinfectant. Do not use corrosive detergents such as bleach. Close the front panel and shut down the cabinet. Empty the water bath and put in order all the materials. Turn the water bath off. Remove the gloves using the correct procedures. And place them in the biological solid waste bin. Wash your hands thoroughly using a disinfecting soap. Now you can safely leave the laboratory.